And so the biggest thing is we're having him lay down and stay nice and relaxed in this position. I'm finding acromion. I'm taking my measurement and I'm taking acromion and going down to table. So I'm finding the AC joint, finding this bony prominence there, putting it there, and then going down to table so he is at 9. And then I'll measure side to side for this one. So let's say this is like my affected shoulder. Acromion, and then we're going down. And so for this one is 11. So it's a 2 centimeter difference, which you can kind of like obviously visually see, right? And so I will say for like anyone that's a overhead athlete, like they're going to be a little bit more stiff on the pec minor, but again, like that could also lead to that like anterior tipping measurement we took with the foam. This, I would take both of these together because it's that kind of shows you now like it's probably the pec minor that's stiff. All right, next after that, hands are gonna, so to look at pec major, you're gonna interlock your hands, put it right behind your head, and then let the arms lay on, scoot down a little bit. So like with both these, try to make sure that the like upper quarter of the thorax and the head are all on the flat surface. Otherwise, the curvature can skew. Arms should stay relaxed on the table. So if this can't stay relaxed on table and they're up like this, then I would obviously mark that as pec major being stiff. The way that you would measure that is if you scoot over, like let's say that this pec major was stiff. I would, let's say you're right there, right? I would take my measurement tool, tape measure, go to the tip of the olecranon, and go down to table there. And for these ones, for both of these, there's no normative values. I just would like them to be somewhat similar.
What were the landmark marks for pec minor?
Pec minor is acromion, like AC joint really, and then down to the table.
Okay.
Like directly straight down. Yep. And then the last one, this one's a little bit more involved. So you're gonna stay on, like go on a roll on your side. So this is a reverse sleeper. And so the Terry's, go and sit up for a second. We're gonna serious talk anatomy. So the Terry's major and the lat have a conjoining tendon that goes to the anterior portion of the humerus. It kind of comes up. It comes up under here and it wraps and it attaches right into the bicipital, like medial portion of the bicipital groove. And so knowing that those can join there and it has contribution to the glenohumeral joint, it's important that we like see how that contribution is when they are like within your movement mechanics. And so it's important to look at the actual motion or like the range of motion of external rotation for the Terry's, and the way that you do it is actually in like a reverse sleeper position. So if you go and lay on the side, and the reason for that is notice how the Terry's major, which is the big one right there, is attached to the scapula, and the lat is not attached to the scapula. So when you're laying on your back, and like I'm sure we all kind of know like the lat length test, where you know shoulder flexion on your back with like the knees and low back flat to the ground. I actually don't really look at that too much because of all the confounding factors that can like skew my actual measurement, such as like lumbar extension, and then same with GH joint like motion because it's independent. I feel that I get a better measurement with Terry's in this position where I can get him in sideline. So I'll have you scoot forward, and what I'm doing right now is I'm having the shoulder in horizontal adduction, which takes tissue slack out of the Terry's major. I'm making sure that this shoulder, actually scoot up, is you're directly laying on the shoulder here. So the areas that you end up like being like, what was your term you used? Running away?
Escape.
Yeah, escape is going up. So I will actually have my hand here to make sure when I move him like in internal external rotation, his shoulder doesn't escape Fortunately, we're not doing like a true like internal rotation measure there. Otherwise, like he's gonna escape up more. I don't get that as much with the Terry's range of motion. So what I'll end up doing is taking him into external rotation, keeping that shoulder locked, making sure that his arm, like his body's directly on top of his shoulder, and I'll take him out into external rotation here and hold, and I'll still measure like so. And this measurement should be below, like it should be below parallel to ground. So this would be 90 right there. A stiff Terry's, like you will literally see it be right there. Yep. And then yeah, the way I guess intervention would be is obviously target the Terry's for ability. You can utilize the this measure, like range of motion, can be seen up in that position, like the 140 position or so. The problem with that is you don't get quite that like shoulder scapular like compression. That sometimes like in that position that's the only downside about sitting, but it's a much easier way to measure there. So if this is like stiff, then this is like where it's a little bit different from like for Michael's thing. It's like I'll do 90 degrees and I'll do the sleeper stretch and measure here too.
So subscap is
Yeah.
going to depend on portions of subscap.
Yep.
That might be subscap or is subscap here and more here.
Yeah, so that's why it's in a horizontal
Here's-
position, so you're technically shortening subscap.
Okay.
So
that's
that
more-
should not be a component of this.
It's more here and
Yes.
here, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the
Good
arm,
question.
like anything in abduction, like in
Here,
neutral
it's
abduction, like you are stretching out. Like I would say it's more up here.
Okay. For
Yeah.
subscap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why coming across in horizontal abduction is like the biggest thing that's why you can somewhat selectively get Terry's measured. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that from the literature, this is not a like test that's done. This is
Yeah.
something that like
Yeah.
you try to tease out because in baseball there's a lot of like Terry's and lat strains, and so this is like the thing that you see the most with.
Mhm.
And so we've been able, like it was a marker within professional baseball. It's not published because actually it's it's part of the reason why I left was that they don't want to publicize like things that could be a competitive advantage, and if you can, so if people are getting hurt, then that could be like competitive advantage for another team. So if they find that out, they try to keep it under locks.
So you were mentioning that subscap in scaption position doesn't put as much like stretch.
No, that it puts more up in this position.
The more elevated you are.
More elevated you are.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Any questions on this one here? Okay. Cool. All right. Let's break out for pec minor, pec major, and teres.